Hi, this is Jeff with FrostyGarden.com, and today we want to talk about how we prepare our 1,700 square foot community garden. We've been growing at Fairbanks Community Garden now for 8 total seasons. This will be our 8th season, and we've put a lot of effort into making the soil really good and highly producing for us over the years. Generally speaking, this garden is heavily focused on growing brassicas and squash. We also grow some peas as well as runner beans here as well. But overall, this garden is heavily focused towards preservation, but we also do some fresh eating off it as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. When we first arrive at our community garden, it's usually a pretty good mess. One of our very first steps is to clean up all of these old plants. Just like with our raised beds, we generally let the winter kill off all of our plants because it's much easier to remove dead plants than it is plants that are still alive. So we do all of our plant cleanup in the spring. Fortunately, our community garden does offer several large compost piles where we can take all of these plants and they can then be composted over the summer season. As our community garden has grown, we've started to rent skid steers to turn those compost piles, and overall our community garden is able to produce a lot of its own compost. This has been a great resource for all of us. Once we've finished with cleaning up all of our old plants, it's time to get started with preparing the actual soils. We like to start by adding compost across the entire bed. We generally use our homemade compost, and the amount that we use varies from year to year depending on how much we've produced. Sometimes it's as little as 1 to 2 cubic feet per bed, sometimes it's as much as 3 to 4 cubic feet per bed, but we try to add as much as we possibly can every year. We also will rake in any nearby organics such as old leaves or straw or branches into the actual soil itself. More organics is generally better for your soil. It promotes better drainage and is just generally overall good. Once we get done with that, then we come along with our tiller and we till the top 4 to 5 inches. And what we're trying to do is incorporate all that compost into the soil as well as those organics. And then once we've finished tilling the bed, we will generally try to rake and level the bed and try to even out any high and low spots so that we've got a nice planting surface to grow into each year. We like to use a lot of weed fabric on these gardens, and the reason that we do that is overall it reduces the amount of weeding that we have to do. That's our least favorite thing of actual gardening, and so anything we can do to reduce it is a good thing in our book. So what we do is every year we shift the weed fabric down 1 exact row. And what this does is we continue to grow the same kinds of plants in each weed fabric covered bed, but since we shift that, we're accomplishing our overall crop rotation plans. And what that ensures us is that the same crop that we grew last year in that bed doesn't grow in the same bed the following year. One of the things that we've observed is that we've gotten better and more efficient at preparing these gardens every single year. This whole process used to take us 2 days, and now we can get it done in about 5 hours. You'll notice that Katie and I work exceptionally well together doing these preparations, and the reason is that we know exactly what needs to be done. So as one task gets finished, one of us starts on the next task, and we're constantly leapfrogging over each other until we finish the entire bed. If you're discouraged by how much labor gardening takes, just know that it does get better in time and you find out more efficient and easier ways to do the same task and overall take less of your time. Once we've finished preparing all of our main growing beds, we move on to our pea bed. We do a few direct sows at this particular garden, mostly growing snap peas and runner beans. We generally cultivate this bed by hand, and the reason is that it's just too difficult for us to get our tiller in here. So we use a little 3-prong cultivator to prepare the beds, once again incorporating compost and any nearby organics into the soil, and once we're done, it's ready to accept our direct sows. As far as the fertilization strategy that we use at this garden, we don't do any kind of broadcast fertilization. Other than the compost additions that we showed you earlier, we're not broadcast fertilizing these entire beds. And the reason is that there's a lot of space that isn't actually growing plants. So what we actually do is we put the fertilizer in with our transplants when we put them into the ground and only try to fertilize the areas that the plants are actually growing. We also apply a liquid-based fertilizer to this garden over the growing season, and generally that takes care of all of our nutrition needs throughout the entire season. And that's pretty much how we do the preparations of our 1,700 square foot community garden. We'll be honest with you, it's a whole lot of backbreaking work, and it's all we can do to come home and have a couple glasses of beer or wine, try to put that pain out of our memory. But we're super happy once we get to this point because it's ready to start accepting plants, and that's the next thing that we get started on. Once again, I'm Jeff with FrostyGarden.com, and I would like to thank you for watching. Overall, we're trying to inspire newer gardeners to get started with gardening and beginner gardeners to try to take on more advanced topics. We hope that you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. If you think we've earned it, we would love it if you gave us a like and subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.